Hey there, SkepticalRoot. Bias. I've talked about this video a couple of times and I just haven't been able to frame it in a way that makes some kind of sense that isn't just me talking to you. Fortunately, I rediscovered this little gem from the Mike YouTube channel that gives me a great framework to delineate the subject matter. Link to the original video is in the description. Most of this is going to be a response video, but it all lays the groundwork for my points at the end.
Alright, so in my experience, racist is one of the most triggering words for white people.
It's an accusation that usually isn't true, and one that is often used exclusively for white people. But before we get too deep, I want to go on the record as saying, in spite of what Mamoudou is about to say, being racist is not a spectrum. Bias, maybe, but racism is a binary. You are or you aren't. It's like being pregnant. There are degrees of severity, but believing your race is superior solely on the criteria of race, then you're a racist.
But are all white people racist? Let me explain using science. Short answer, no. Long answer, yes, of course.
Mamoudou starts off with an appeal to authority that I think most people who reviewed this video have missed. He claims to be a behavioral neuroscientist. While he did graduate from Worcester College with a degree in neuroscience, he certainly isn't working in that field. He can no more claim that he's a behavioral neuroscientist than I can claim that I'm a psychologist, since I studied that in school, even though I work as a sysadmin now. From looking at the degree requirements, I've had more psych than he has. However you take that, Mamoudou doesn't sell himself as a behavioral neuroscientist elsewhere. His LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter profiles are linked below. But I digress. Let's get back to his points, shall we?
A racist is defined as someone who feels discrimination or prejudice to people of a different race, or feels that one race is superior to another. You're probably already like, oh my god, but that's not me. Hold the fuck on, I'm not done. It's like 3 minutes left in this video. Chill. A lot of people are probably focused on the latter part of that definition, perceived racial superiority. But this behavioral neuroscientist is focused on the word prejudice. That word is the centerpiece by which the rest of this definition can exist.
See? Okay, where is this definition coming from? Racism is just his second definition according to Google and the OED online. Merriam-Webster's third definition simply says racial prejudice or discrimination, which does fit with what he's saying. So, where's that in the other definitions? It might be implied, I suppose.
Fun fact, humans do have a tendency to create in-groups and out-groups, but they aren't born with prejudice. That's something that we learn. It's a product of nurture, not nature.
Wait, what? Where did he take psych classes again, Wooster? In-group and out-group is all part of our evolutionary psychology. It's about resource management. Those who discriminate enough to maintain our fragile resource economy the best were the ones who survived. We are the product of those that were sufficient to that task. We are genetically inclined, not taught, to have in-group and out-group bias. We also see this inclination in almost all social species, like chimps and other primates like macaques, and gorillas and bonobos, dogs, bats, gerbils, lions, crows, starlings, penguins, elephants, dolphins, whales, termites, ants, bees, to name a few. We can rationally expand or contract our group to include or exclude anyone we choose, like dogs can consider humans part of their group, but we will inherently discriminate. Reason is one of the tools that we have as humans that allows us to understand how and when we might add or remove people from these groups. We can also share this reasoning with other people through language.
What that means is that we learn it from the people we're around, the people that we're raised by, also known as social contact. Social contact to different people has been proven scientifically to improve cognitive development and cultural understanding overall. Inside prejudice is bias, or the inclination to have certain opinions based on your personal experiences.
This may be true, but citations? No? Okay. Carry on.
We all have biases, and those biases align themselves to positive and negative emotions, like, wow, I love this, or I hate this. These opinions are based on a multitude of things. For instance, the media, stereotypes, and being around people from different walks of life. I'll say it again for those of y'all in the back. We all have racial biases.
You have in no way shown this to be true. And until you just said it here, you haven't even mentioned it in the video. Saying it doesn't make it true. But this is where you get into showing just exactly how well you don't understand this.
So, is having racial bias the exact same thing as being racist? In my opinion, nah.
So we're done here?
Racism is a spectrum, not a binary where you can either be a racist or an angel.
No. Even if you have racial bias, it doesn't mean you're a racist. An angel? Where'd that come from?
But he did have a point. Need proof? Let's go take a test. The Implicit Association Test, or IAT, was a test developed by Harvard researchers to examine correlations between certain attributes like good, bad, fun, evil, and targets like black, white, gay, or straight.
Here's the problem. You cite the IAT, which has been criticized since its release for its lack of solid grounding in empirical data. Linked below, you'll find an article from the APA from 2008, an article from 2011 from Psychology Today, and a 2017 article from NY Mag saying that the IAT actually does a poor job measuring racial biases. Those and other links are in the description. But the point is that, well, what does this show? Let's assume that it is in fact a good test. What were your results?
When I took the test, I showed less racial bias towards any one group.
Wait, so everyone has racial bias but you? Is that what you're saying? No? Just lower, huh?
Probably because I had a very diverse upbringing with friends and family from all walks of life. That puts me a little bit lower on our racism spectrum. I did have a little bit of racial bias favoring people of African descent, which makes sense because I was raised by people of African descent and spent the most time with them.
Anecdotally, I went to a private school where there was one black student in my class and was one of only probably 3 black students that I remember in elementary school. In high school, I went to a Catholic school where that one black student from my class also went, and out of 215 or so classmates in my graduating class, there were a total of 3 black students, 1 Indian student, and 2 Asian students. We all came from either private or Catholic schools in the general area. I rarely even thought about the fact that they were different. I never really thought about their race or background. I think it was in high school before I ever remember hearing a racial slur used against someone. And what was my score on the IAT, you may ask? I, too, showed no bias on the test. So I took it again. Know what it showed? That I again have no significant racial bias, but I may have a slight inclination to favor black people. Does that mean I favor black people because I'm biased in their favor? Or could it mean that I think of darker things more favorably, perhaps? Just leaving that here.
So yes, it's possible to have racial biases, no matter how woke you are or how much you love The Wire. Racial biases can happen both ways. So, the IAT isn't the end-all be-all whether you're racist or not. But if you're like, man, according to this test, I might be a racist, start by diversifying your friend group. Pick up a history book, talk to folks who aren't like you. It's never too late to unlearn prejudice, but you have to acknowledge that it exists first, fam.
Yeah, what was that? Look, this is the problem with the use of the idea of bias. Mamoudou has biases. He comes forward and talks about them as if that somehow fixes them. But he also uses this rhetorical trick that I see a lot with ideologues. There is this, we all have biases trope, which they use to shut down dialogue, because if you don't admit you have biases, then you aren't really engaging in conversation. But if you do admit it, then obviously that's the reason you're wrong and not seeing the world their way. We may all have some biases, but nowhere in the research does it say that we all must have biases. Sure, we are all prone to them, and we may all have some biases for or against something. I mean, we all have to in order to survive. We all have a personal bias, but people still commit suicide. But even if we all do have biases, even if we all have biases about everything, that still doesn't fix the argument. Biases can be right, so it's not an argument that you have then. It's actually a moot point designed to cover for a lack of an argument. A distraction to get you looking at the magician's assistant while he hides the card up his sleeve. Claiming bias isn't an argument. It can be a reason for approaching a topic a certain way, but not changing someone's mind doesn't prove bias. It's like a Christian apologist using Pascal's wager to convince you to be a Christian, and then when you don't agree, they claim that you just want to sin. How much sense does that make? Who would think that's a good argument? Maybe, just maybe, that argument wasn't convincing. That's it. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. I haven't done a comments on comments video in a while, and I did have a long talk with a YouTube hero a video or two back that I wanted to make a video on. I also intended to get back to doing Peter Kreeft's list of 20 reasons for the existence of God, or whatever it was called. I think I was about halfway through it. So like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel! I've also got a Minds account now and a vid.me account, as well as my other social media stuff linked in the description box. For now, you aren't going to find a whole lot there, other than my YouTube stuff. I've got the accounts to have the accounts in the event that I ever want the accounts, if you know what I mean. So, until next time, goodbye and hello, as always.
It doesn't. Mission.